All right, welcome everyone to the Learning Curve, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything regarding PE and learning. So today we have a very special guest on the podcast, and it is Miss Nisa, who is over here. She is a OYEA winner in 2023, and we want to pick her brains, okay, on the idea on building trust, okay, with our students. Okay, Nisa, thank you so much for appearing on my podcast.
Thank you
You're
for the opportunity.
Thank you as well. You're the first person, okay, that I'm interviewing. So I'm also a little bit excited and nervous as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So yeah. Like I said before, we want to have a discussion with regards to building trust with our students. I can see that during your lessons, I notice you have very rich conversations with your students. I also noticed that when the students speak to you along the corridors, they are very excited to want to have a chat with you. And I also see that your conversations with them are very genuine and very happy all the time. Can I just check with you first? Why do you think it is important to actually build trust with our students?
Okay, before that, I just want to say a disclaimer. I mean, I don't think like the students are always excited to talk to me, or like I'm happy if let's say they are willing to interact, because I think that's the time when we can build rapport. Because most of the time in school, in class, I'm actually very firm. Like, I would like to think that I'm actually very strict. So like I'm very particular about homework submission. Like at the start, if there's homework, we will always check the homework first.
Yes.
And if they don't do, there will always be a consequence. Yeah, but back to your question about why building trust is important. Am I right to say that? Yeah, so for me, building trust is important because usually for my form classes and classes that I take, I will always, at the start of the year, I will always tell them that there's only two things that I need, trust and respect.
Okay.
Yeah, so trust is that because there are times when certain things or certain actions that we take, they may not agree with it. And I'm okay that they are not agree with it. As a teacher, I don't think that we should always be liked upon, but but what I feel that is important is respect. So that there must be a mutual respect and trust, in the sense that whatever is done is in their best interest. So they may not like the way a consequence is carried out. They may not like the way my approach, or they may not like they may not like my approach or the consequence that I carry out. But I just want them to trust that whatever action that is, whatever consequence that is enforced, is usually because I think we want the best for their character. And maybe for now they may not understand, but maybe in future years, or even when they leave St. Gib, whatever that I do usually is to help to prepare them for the reality, after they graduate. Yeah, because I think working life, or even after you leave St. Gibson, like in secondary school, right, usually the culture that we have is more nurturing, is like a lot of care, a lot of love, a lot of understanding.
Yes.
But I don't think that's the reality when we leave secondary school, because I think working life, we have to work with people of different personalities. I think even like when you go to tertiary education, sometimes in group works, there will be more group work, and it may not always be easy. So students must also learn to be able to be receptive to feedback that are not always positive. That's one. I also feel that things don't always go their way. So they must learn to be accepting of whatever consequence that happens to them, and they must understand that, certain action, when I take certain action, there will always be a consequence. I must learn from it, instead of always like spending a lot of time being so negative, like say, why is it like this, without understanding that sometimes their actions are the reason behind the consequence. Yeah, so for me, trust is important because throughout, especially as a form teacher, throughout that 2 years, it may not be a pleasant time for both me and them. Yeah, but whatever that is done is usually at the best interest of their heart, so that they can grow in terms of character. Hopefully with character comes their academic. That's what I always believe in.
Okay, thank you, Nisa. I hear from you that the reason why building trust is important is because you want them to develop their character. Because if they don't have the right character, then they will not be able to learn well. And on top of that, when they graduate from secondary school, if their character is not right, it's not going to serve them well when they start working in society, or when they in the nearer term, okay, start working with other people in group projects, whether be it in ITE, Poly, or in JC. Once the students are able to understand that your intentions, okay, is to help them develop their character, naturally the trust and rapport will be built between you and your students.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes, you're right. I think you sum up perfectly. But I also just want to say that it's not usually like flowery, happy. It's not like always pleasant. I mean, I do also struggle as a teacher, I think, in building trust, especially in a FSBB class. I think it is a challenge. At the same time, it's also a learning opportunity for me. Yeah, so it's not always pleasant. Like, I mean, the rapport don't just come naturally as it is. Yeah, it's a lot of the class interaction, like the classroom teaching interaction, and at the same time, I know for one of the student, like I had to build the trust for 1 year. Yes, yeah. So like last year, he just refused to participate in any class activity, any bonding activity. Even like our interaction, we always tend to clash. Yeah. So and because furthermore with FSBB, you don't teach everyone. Yeah. So it's also very difficult for them to also for us to build a rapport during like lesson time, because I don't teach the student. Yeah, then I think it really took me about 1 year, and it was really a struggle. I have to keep thinking of ways of how I can like build that trust and relationship with the student. Yeah.
But what kept you going to want to continue to build the trust and rapport with that particular student which you have just shared?
Oh, okay. For me, I think as a form teacher, it's important that I have strong rapport with the students, so that at least, right, when you want to give them feedback about improving or correcting a certain behavior, it doesn't always come off in a negative manner. That's one. And second is because we also have to journey with them at least for 2 years. So I think that it's only right that we also make the effort. But of course, it's a push and pull. There are times when I feel like we also give, and I'm very sure our teachers also, our fellow educators also face this. Where do we draw the boundary, or where do we draw the line to know that, oh, we already give, why must we always like give in? That's something that I also still struggle up until now. So for me, what matters is always remembering what's my purpose, what's our mission, what's the why behind whatever that we do.
Yes, I think thank you for sharing. Very well said. I also like to share that when I first started teaching, I always want to be very firm with my students, and to be very frank. When during the earlier years of my career, right, I felt that I've lost a few students because, when I am always too firm and overly, strict with my students, right? Some of them really switched off. So I totally agree with your analogy that when we communicate with our students, right, it's like flying a kite. Sometimes you need to release a little bit of tension, but sometimes yet at the same time we want to have tension, so that we are able to ensure that they develop properly according to the the values, the proper values that we want them to learn and take away as they graduate from secondary school. So back to the point on when we need to be firm, or when we need to actually provide tension in our communication with our students, to tell them things that they may not necessarily like. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more? How do you go about being firm, but yet at the same time, the students actually believe in you? Because you shared that you are not always like friendly all the time. You can be firm, but I always hear from students that they really like speaking and talking to you.
I think you picked a good student.
They really like.
There are haters.
So how do you go about being firm, but yet at the same time, maintain that trust, that you're building with that student or students that you're working with? Maybe can you
I mean, I don't really have like a strategy, but what I do know is, because actually for me, I value time in class when we teach. That part, we can show them our competency and how firm we are. It's outside of class is where we develop that rapport. But for me, because sometimes in class when we are very strict, like about homework collection, about mannerism, usually after, like if let's say I scold them or enforce a consequence, sometimes I will explain to them that it's nothing personal on them. It's just that character that I don't support and I don't agree with. I mean, if you want to argue about it, I'm okay, but that's the belief that I have, that this character, usually I will just align with whatever the school values are. It doesn't reflect one of the school values, and for me, I feel that that's wrong, so that should be corrected. Yeah, I mean, if you disagree, sure, you share your point of view. Then from there we can have a healthy conversation, hopefully. Yeah, but I also just want to have a disclaimer. I don't think, I mean, there are times when I do know that there are students who don't agree, or there are students who also dislike the way that I manage certain situations. And I'm also okay with that, because I think it becomes like a learning lesson and a reflection point for me. Yeah, so not everything is always sweet, but for me, I think mindset and approach also matters. Things don't always go our way, but how can we make the best of whatever situation that we have? And I think also I learn a lot from the students. Like for example, maybe this method don't work with students from previous cohort, but maybe this like different cohorts will require different approach. Yeah, so I will learn to adapt with time. But I also feel like I'm privileged enough, I think, in St. Gabriel, especially when I'm a BT, right? I really have like really good, strong support system. Like, I mean, and when I'm a BT, I get to see different approach. Like, I remember I was paired up with Amira to learn for history, and she's also firm and she finds that balance. For FCE, I really learn a lot from Laura. And then, I mean, I have my developing mentor who is also always there. And then my CCA, I really learn a lot from Charmaine. And I think one thing that I'm also grateful is I have my teacher mentor, Mr. Tuang. So anytime I want to ask questions, all this, I'm really, like, I feel like at the start, I'm privileged enough. So from there, I get to learn. But I mean, all these are opportunities, so you must take the learning points and learn from the opportunities that is already presented to you. So for me, I feel like I'm privileged enough that I have very good like mentors or teacher mentors, or even like colleagues who really like teach me what is the way. It's just that I then have to find my own style.
Okay. Thank you for sharing once again. I hear that, when you're firm with students, right, you address the character or the action, but not the person. This really helps a lot. The students, because the students see that you are addressing, what he is actually doing, which is the action, and not him personally. So even when you are firm or when you reprimand the student, I feel that there's a high chance that he will not take it personally towards you. And I think in that sense, trust is being built between you and the students, even though that particular conversation may not be an easy one for you and him. Yeah, because I think intuitively the students will see that you are trying to help him develop to become a better person. You're trying to develop his character. You have nothing against him as a person. I think, it's very helpful to build trust, even though when the conversation is not an easy one.
I mean, a few things that suddenly I also think of is a lot of like, I also will see their mood and reaction at that moment, and also mine, because if let's say they are not in the best, because like, especially sometimes when we correct, some students cannot accept it. Yeah, and then I also get very angry that they cannot accept it when they are they cause this upon themselves. It's not like I purposely cause this upon them. Yeah, because already the routines and expectations are laid out clearly at the start of the year. Yeah, so usually I will also see their mood and their reaction. So may not be right at that moment that we explain to them. It could be after lesson, or if not another day, maybe after the next lesson. Then I will explain, because I find that if the students are not in the right mind frame, they will not be receptive, and they will just keep thinking that, you're attacking me, when that's not the intention that we want. Because I mean, if possible, I would want for them to be better behaved or improve on that character, so that the remaining lessons that we have will be pleasant for both of us. Yeah, because I mean, who would want a student who is very moody, very unhappy, very upset to come to class? So you also want them to give their best. Yeah, so if let's say I feel that they are not in the right mindset or emotional frame, I will not correct them today, but I will let them know that this behavior is not acceptable. When you're ready, we talk. Yeah, that's one thing. Another thing is, sometimes, I mean, we can find opportunities to also praise them. So like, for example, like if they do this behavior that I really don't accept, then next time I'll say, so these are things that you should continue. Yeah, so like, for example, being prepared for lesson. But what you can work on is maybe your attitude. Because another thing is, I like to do is a lot of perspective taking. I will always use myself and I say, imagine when you talk to me and I give you attitude. how would you feel?
Yeah.
And then imagine when that moment you need help, people give you attitude. Yeah, how would you feel? Yeah. So a lot of perspective taking, being in the right frame of mindset and emotion, and then finding opportunities to praise them. But I feel like that would be intentional. But at the same time, if I still want to focus on their character that needs to be improved, I want it to be as sincere. I do not want to praise them just for the sake of praising, because I do not want, because there are many other good students that behave. Yeah, so I think it's also important to also acknowledge those well-behaved students and praise them for that moment. In case in future something bad happen, then you can say, but remember those times when we find good things to say about you, or we notice that you've been showing that good behavior. So because sometimes I feel students who misbehave, they tend to get a lot more attention, which I think also like pitiful for the students who really behave. And then sometimes also helping to, like, it's helpful to understand and know what is happening maybe outside of that lesson time. So it could be something from home, it could be a peer relationship problem, or it could be maybe that day is just, So I think giving students the space to also explain themselves. And then, like, I mean, if it's a valid thing, like for example, just today, get scolding the whole day, then I say, okay, no one is perfect, we give and take, but this is the one time, so we give in already, then the next lesson you have to, to improve. But if consistently happen, then either one of us is, like, not to say the problem, but there's something that one of us have to work.
I like the part where you shared that, during the conversations, you give and take, you also assess whether the student is ready to take in feedback before you start the conversation. You also check on yourself whether you're ready at that point in time, to have that conversation with the student as well. So it goes back to the idea of teaching. We need to understand the profile of our learners, of our students, before we apply the right pedagogy in our lessons. I think it's somewhat similar in our conversations with them as well. If, let's say, the student is really not ready to have a serious conversation, sometimes we give them space to calm down first, all right, before we speak to them at another more suitable time. And I think that will be more fruitful to help, adjust the behavior of the student in the long run. I also like what you shared about the importance of noticing what the students have done, positively, and then give the proper affirmation during our conversations with them. Because I think, culturally, I think a lot of students will feel that, hey, teachers are always noticing our bad points. They just simply expect us to behave very well. So I therefore really like the part where you shared that, we try to capture what they have done well and give them the praise with regards to the effort of doing the right things. So that we positively reinforce the right behavior which we want them to develop.
Yes, correct.
So I sincerely believe that we can do more of this, with our students, so that they also notice that, hey, teachers are not just noticing the wrong things that we are doing, but they are actually trying to actively notice the good behavior that we are doing in school also.
But I also just want to add, because I do know, like, for us educators, there are some days when I think, while we try to find positive things to also affirm, right? Some days maybe the student, for example, or it has been consistently that student has not been performing well. So if really I couldn't find, or like for example, I find that moment is not to focus on the praise, but I want to focus on the character, and I cannot get through the students, another thing I will do is I will relate back to, okay, so with this behavior, after you graduate, because in school we have rules, routines and expectations, and students cannot accept. So I always tell them that when you go to work, there are also rules, routine, and expectation. Then what are you going to do? Are you going to tell the teacher, hey, why you always pick on me? Are you going to tell your boss, hey, why you always pick on me? No. You have to learn how to make the best of whatever organization that you choose to work in. So I also want to always highlight to them the importance of, like, certain behavior really is applicable to after after secondary school life. So to really help them to see that things cannot always be rosy for the students. Feedback matters, and if they cannot take feedback at this time, how are they going to take feedback to when they leave school? That's one. And second, I realize also sometimes our students are very quick to give feedback to others. But maybe us also as adult, we are very quick to give feedback, but maybe we haven't learned to fully accept. Like maybe for me, I think it's also a learning process. Yeah, so like usually during our interactions, I will also say that, this feedback is nothing personal, but it's also that sometimes we give feedback to others, we hope others improve. So I'm giving this feedback is because I hope that you improve. But if you strongly disagree with any, I'm okay that you want to share your personal opinion or whatever. But again, we always go and align ourselves with the school values. And somehow our grades or our parents or us pick this school. At the same, when I go to work, somehow I choose this job, or in a way, if I don't like, I have to change the school or organization. So that's something that I also tell the students, if you don't like the school rules, routines, and expectations, then you must learn how to adapt. Yeah, I know that part can be a bit harsh and firm, but for me, I feel that is also important because we must learn to accept whatever routines and expectation that wherever that we are at, whether the organization or whatever it is. If you don't like, you can always change your outcome. Yeah, but if you continue to don't like, and then every organization you cannot accept the basic rules and routines or expectations, right? Then I think it's also time for you to step out and reflect. For me, that's why I find matters.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we need to have rules, boundaries, limitations,
Yes, correct.
expectations, and routines. Okay, in our lessons, in our classrooms, in school. Because imagine if there's nothing like that, right? And everybody has total freedom. We definitely run a big risk of certain people, all right, doing things that is really not conducive.
Correct.
Okay,
Not correct. Socially not
not acceptable.
Values, interests, and then this could be
for
our
the
future PM and
Correct.
ministers and MPs.
Yeah,
Yes.
so then we will run this huge risk, and the community will not be able to function properly, and then basically it will it goes to show that if we actually do that, then it defeats the purpose of or the objectives of having a school and having a lesson. So I always tell my students, to imagine that if I visit your home, you expect me to maybe have a certain decorum, okay, or a certain dress code. So I respect that before I step into your home. So likewise, if you step into St. Gabriel's, or you step into the school, step into my classroom, I would also like you to respect, okay, the rules, boundaries, expectations, and routines within, okay, my community. So I think when I say that to the boys, right, they immediately understood this idea of respecting rules, boundaries, values, and limitations within lessons and within the school compound itself. Because they themselves wouldn't want to be disrespected if people go into their homes and then they do things that is actually against what they believe in their own home lah. Yeah. So I hear from you just now also that you are very willing to accept some of the feedback that the boys give to you, and you reflect on it, and after that try to do things better next time round with the current group of students or with a new group of students that you're teaching. How did you come about, okay, having this belief that you are very willing to actually accept, okay, some of the feedback that the boys give to you?
Actually, thanks to the students, the school, because I find that as educators, right, we always go into class and we say, oh, you all should learn how to be receptive to feedback and all that. But I find that it's not genuine if us educators themselves, we tell the students it's important to reflect on the feedback, it's important to give feedback, but then you don't reflect on it or you don't accept, then I find that for me that doesn't align with what I believe. I don't know, over time I feel like as an educator, I grow through the experiences that I have with the students, the interactions that I have with colleagues and students. So I find that it is only logical while we are willing to accept, while we want students to accept feedback, we want students to learn to be receptive to feedback, right? Then why are we not receptive to the feedback? Like in general, people wants to give. Yeah, and I also feel that, we must also move with time. Like we always tell the students, things are not going to always be like this. But then after that, I feel like if we don't change our own teaching methods and all that, but we tell the students, things will not always be this way and all that, but you must learn to adapt. But if we don't adapt, then how does it? That's my own personal belief. So I feel like whatever we say, we must also follow. But of course, their feedback there must be boundary and limit. Again, for me, whenever we are in like a position, I will seek feedback from other teachers also, or I align myself to the school values lah, and I see whether there's value. Because some people, maybe like for example, some students, they only say because they have that one negative experience, so their feedback will just be negative because they feel like, oh, you do this and I really dislike you for this. Yeah, so sometimes it becomes like just it doesn't help you grow as an educator. Yeah, so I will see the value in the feedback. Like for example, if I see, okay, sometimes the feedback doesn't have to also be verbal. It could be like in lesson, if I teach and I find them disengaged. Yeah, I mean, I would love and hope for all students to be engaged, and I feel that they should change. But then at the same time, I also feel like if I always expect them to change, but I myself am not doing something to change, right? Then we both will just be stuck in this place. I will be very angry. They will be very disengaged. There's no learning for them, and then I feel like there's no fulfillment or joy in my job. Yeah, so while I do want them to improve, I also feel like there are certain things that I can improve and continuously change. Because I mean, we always expect our students to continuously improve and adapt. Yeah, so I think it's also important that the expectation that we have on the students, we also have on like just in general ourselves. That's my own perspective and belief lah.
Wow, well said. I mean, if I'm the student, right? If I'm the student,
Yeah, but that's what I think. Don't you? I thought a lot of people would think like that, because how can we tell students this, but we don't do it?
Okay, I totally see your point. And if I'm the student, I will definitely have a lot of trust in you, because if my teacher is willing to role model, what she
But I
tells
don't
me,
explicitly tell the students that, okay, sometimes I'll say, like, I really try to plan engaging lessons and all that, and this is really, I try. But on your part, what are you doing? But not all the time I will tell them, oh, we do all this, because I mean, at the end of the day, we do just for myself, my own happiness lah.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'm, like I said, if I'm in the student's shoes and my teacher is willing to also role model what she expects me to do, then I will definitely have more trust in my teacher to let her know about how I think about things, because I know that she will walk the talk. Yeah, she will walk the talk, and the trust is therefore better built between me as a student and you as the teacher as well. Thank you for sharing on that, because I think the fundamental idea is that if we want our students to actually do something, we should role model. And role modeling is one of the easiest way to get our students to start learning about something, especially when they are starting to learn something new. Okay, so when we develop our students in terms of their character, I think at the start we must role model, so that when they see their teacher doing the right thing, when they expect students to also do that particular correct thing in their daily lives, right, they're more willing to take it up. And then as the learning or developmental process goes on, right, they grow deeper in the learning itself. I felt that I've learned a lot from you today, especially when it comes to building trust.
I think you are better.
No.
I'm not. But I also want to give credit to people who really helped to develop and shape me as an educator. So I find that it's really a lot of like, it's not everything is just me, but it's also like my upbringing, and it's also the teachers and the colleague. One thing I really like about St. Gabriel is I realized that everyone here is nice, and they got different like feedback, ideas, and suggestion. So I learn a lot also from many of the people that I interact with, and even the students.
I think we have spoken quite a bit. I felt that some of the key things that you have shared, to help us build trust with our students, is that we assume the positive in our students. We shouldn't be afraid, to take in feedback from them, so that it gives the students a sense that the teacher is actually walking the talk. When the teacher expects the student to behave in a certain way.
I mean, for me, it's a lot also about trying to encourage perspective taking in them by trying to relate to like what you when you use the example of home. I thought those are like meaningful examples, because I realized that our students lack the maturity. So sometimes when you give them, right, it becomes like nagging. So they don't really process, and then it goes in and goes out. But when you make them you place them in a certain situation, or you link it to certain other incidents, right, then from there they are able to think and realize like so I think but that requires like a lot of time to know the student. Then you can link like, when you behave like this, imagine the other time when someone do this to you, how do you feel? So for me, a lot of perspective taking really matters, and it's really helpful in helping students understand that there's action and like whatever actions that they take, there's always a consequence to it. So for me, among all the things that I do for trust, I think perspective taking matters. And helping them to understand that trust matters in the sense that whether you like or you don't like the feedback or the situation or the consequence, right? There's a reason behind it.
So we see the positives in students. We be firm with them, but we let them know that it is really for their own good, for their character development, and also we role model. All right, and finally, we help students see perspectives, to be empathetic, during our conversations with them. So I think when we do all these four during our conversations, right, it is easier to build trust. But I think finally, what is more important is that we need to be patient, because as we help our students grow in character, right, it doesn't happen immediately. It takes time. And as you rightfully shared in one of the examples just now, one boy, you took almost 1 year to help that boy change. But I believe it's totally worth it. So basically, these are some of the key takeaways which I have heard from what you have generously shared with me. But maybe can you share one thing which our audience can maybe take away to help them also build trust between themselves and their students?
To help them build trust, let me think. Okay, for me, I think the same thing that I always share with students is whatever that we do, I think it's important to just be genuine and sincere, because different people will have different styles. So I feel like I'm in no position to give advice to people, because I learn a lot from like colleagues, from yourself, from like even like students. So but what really matters is that I think when you're genuine and you are sincere, right, things just falls into place. And as long as you know why you're doing it, and if it doesn't work out, I mean, it's okay. We always find, I mean, we do, I'm sure even when I teach 15 years later, so I will still struggle with learning how to build rapport, learning how to build trust, because students' profile change. But I think even when things don't work out, what matters is we are willing to try, and we are just sincere and genuine. And I'm sure different teachers have different style, and I've seen different styles work on like with different teachers, because that style really work. So I think just do whatever that they do. I'm sure just do you it would work. For me, like, I find sincerity and
all right. Thank you so much, because I totally agree with you, because once you're sincere and genuine, right, the students know that you care. And when the students know that you care, right, I think it beats whatever, pedagogy or whatever, not that we don't focus on pedagogy, even if the pedagogy or, the things that we do in class is not so great, but if the students actually believe that the teacher cares for them, right, the student will actually reciprocate and do the things to learn the things that the teacher wants them to learn. So I think being genuine and sincere is, I think, the most important. Sounds like the most important ingredient to help the teacher and the students build trust.
And you don't want to also fake like just purposely pretend to be nice, but I mean at the end you will get exhausted from doing all this. So if I don't believe in something and I don't believe in that behavior, I will just say it as it is. And again, because I trust that is the best way to really share my feedback with the students. But for me, I find that we shouldn't fake something, or we shouldn't purposely do something that is not our style or our character. And I also would want the students to be as sincere and genuine in whatever that they do, without expecting a certain reward or affirmation. So it's the same like for me, because I enjoy the job, I enjoy the school profile here. So what I do is because I really genuinely and sincerely, like, that's what I think that's best. And there are days when I think I may also clash with the students. But for me, as long as I'm genuine and sincere in my interactions and the things that I do, nothing else really matters.
Precisely, because if you're addressing the action and not the person, right, I think the students will know that you are trying to do things, okay, to help him be a better person. So he doesn't take any firm words from you personally at all. And that again, okay, is another way to really build trust, especially when it comes to having difficult conversations with our students. Because we know that building trust is not just about being caring and kind all the time, but when there are incidents or situations which requires us to be firm, we need to be firm and address the action of the students and not the student himself. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also just want to say a disclaimer. I'm not a role model for the students. Okay, there are times when I think my words can also be very harsh and hurtful. Yeah,
It goes back to the issue. It goes back to rapport. It also goes back to the issue we mentioned about understanding our students first. Yeah, before we do anything or say anything, isn't it? Yeah, because if we don't understand our students and then we just apply or say things that is not suitable, I think the relationship will break down very quickly. Thank you so much for your rich sharing today, and hopefully everyone can take away a little bit of tips and tricks from Nisa, and we will see you in the next episode. Okay, bye bye.